Yo, baby. Good evening to all you beautiful men and women around the world. Tonight, you're tuned into Network King with your host, Basil Artist. Tonight, I'm doing a special interview with the one and only Edward Hoyas. Guys, this guy is this guy, they call him the six-figure mister. The type of man he is. He's a G. He's a brother of mine. I'm so thankful to do this interview with him. He is you're a private jet pilot, correct? And what
Absolutely.
else do you do, brother?
Yeah, man. I'm also in mergers and acquisitions for e-commerce businesses, so I do that on the side.
So basically, he's a shark.
Yeah, right? Pretty much. Yeah, like Shark Tank, pretty much. You can consider it that.
So, with no further ado, Mr. Edward, thank you for being here with me, brother.
Absolutely, bro. Good to be here.
So, for the people that might not know you, can we get your name, age, and what you do for a living?
Yeah, my name is Edward. I am 28 years old. I'm actually a corporate pilot. I fly out of Fort Lauderdale executives, and I do that mainly, But on side hustles, I have stuff like, mergers and acquisitions for e-commerce business, which is a little known secret, but it's very, very lucrative and profitable that I've been dipping my toes into, so to speak.
Okay. From what I've heard is a lot of people become billionaires from that, mergers and acquisitions. From what I heard, it's most millionaires are from real estate and finance, and the most billionaires is from mergers and acquisitions. Is that correct?
Correct. Here's the thing about mergers and acquisitions that a lot of people don't understand. When you're starting an e-commerce business, getting just the WordPress and dealing with everything that's necessary to get it to even where it's running, just like somewhat fine-tuned, takes quite a long time. But guess what? If you can find a guy who has done all the work, 85% of the work, and you could find the guy who's maybe, he needs to get out for financial reasons, maybe it's health reasons, that's another reason too. I mean, it's health reasons as well. And you'd be shocked. I mean, I've had people for COVID that they've wanted to sell their business. So that's one thing. And you could just acquire it from them and they have 85% of the work done. So
what's usually the price range with something like that?
That is absolutely, fascinating, bro. I mean, that's what I like about e-commerce. You can come in and you could be a guy who's looking for a business that's 100K, or you could find one that's 50 million, right? It's kind of like houses, right? Yeah. But the difference is between housing is you need to have established credit, right? That's the requirement. That's the first step you need in order to get into housing, right? You're not going to just, okay, I'll just, talk to the guy, the owner, and he'll give me the house. That's not going to work that way. But you'll find a lot of times with these mergers and acquisitions. I mean, I've had, even for my first deal, put some money down and the other half, I get seller financing, and it's been a blessing.
Amazing. So would you say someone selling their business for $100,000, how much cash flow on average is that business making monthly?
It depends. I mean, for my business, I got it for about $138,000, doing about $10,000 in profit per month. So,
that's already a set business.
That's already a set business, man. It's just day one, and and that's just the stepping stone, right? You don't stop there. There's another stepping stone you need to hit, and that's 20,000, 30,000, and there's multiple ways how to do that.
Okay, I like that. And for the people, can we get your backstory from a young man to who you are now?
Yeah, I'm going to first start with my parents. My parents were extremely inspirational for me. A lot of people say their parents came from nothing, and I like to ask them what nothing is defined as, because that's a interesting term. My parents literally couldn't even take more than their clothes on their back out of Cuba. I am Cuban American. My parents are from Cuba, and they just came here with absolutely nothing. And it's quite incredible to see them, come to where they are. As for me, they were very big on education. So that's one thing I really loved about my parents. And my parents absolutely pushed me for education. And it eventually pushed me into becoming a pilot, because that was a very important part of the Cuban American culture, or I guess just for me. But in general, I guess it is part of Cuban American culture.
Okay. Thank you for that, brother.
Absolutely.
So let's get deep into your structure, who you are as a person. I always start with morals and values, and how you could kind of gauge someone's morals and values. A big indicator is maybe religion, right? So for you,
Massive.
are you a religious person?
Yeah, I'm actually extremely religious. I am actually Catholic. I think it's extremely important. The reason being is you need a constitution. You need something that says, I can't pass this because there are consequences for doing X, right? If you know you could cheat someone and there's no consequences, at least if you're an atheist, right? I mean, what's the consequences? There's not really much, but eternal
Mhm.
damnation. I don't know about you, man, but that doesn't sound great, right? So that's a consequence. I know some people don't want to think about that, but that's something that I do contemplate. It's the only thing I fear.
I like that. And how does your character and Catholicism go together? Uh, how do they coincide?
I think they coincide because there's a set particular values that have been pretty much throughout time been taught, right? Don't rob, don't steal, don't cheat, right? Those are things that are taught in the 10 commandments and stuff like that that you
Mhm.
learn, and they're preaching the community. And the thing is, like, without even people realizing it, even if we end up, sadly not becoming, a super religious country, right? It's something that the community still has ingrained in them. It's part of their psyche that they
Mhm.
teach. And so when I came from a religious background, right, parents and grandparents, there was always a instilled belief of Bible values, pretty much, without them even realizing it.
Okay. And personally, I know you as a person and a brother. So these people might not know you. And from what I had an interview I did yesterday, and we were talking about religion, and behind the scenes, we were talking about how Christianity and Catholicism, a lot of people misrepresent that. What would you say for the people that say maybe Christianity or Catholicism aren't as strong as a religion as Islam, for example? Because
You, you,
people fear Islam. In Catholicism, people might sin and then they'll be like, "Oh, I can repent it." So what does it matter?
I feel like the one thing that's just started to deteriorate Catholic or Christian religion really is the absence of prayer in church, right? That used to be in school. In school, that's pretty big, right? It's a simple thing, but it's something that it really just from a little kid ingrained in you the importance of doing that. And I think over time, schools starting to get rid of that has just made it to the point where it's just not in your daily life, man. You're mainly dealing with math, you're mainly dealing with science, and they'll always preach against, even in the schools, they'll preach against religion. So that's something that I see as deteriorating. I just saw Pope Francis, allow gay marriage, and that's one thing that just
Crazy. It's wild, right?
it's I mean, as a Catholic, I can't believe it, man. It's something that we have really gone down the drain. There is no doubt about it that and I think it starts with that. I think it's from a little kid. That's how you start them. You
Mhm.
ingrain them with these values, right? And yeah, that's how it
So
happened.
do you think that could be changed by a stronger brotherhood or a stronger network of people, a stronger family unit?
I think the first thing they want to do if they want to tear religion, the first thing they could do is just get rid of the father out of the household, right? To be the enforcer, right? I think that's the first thing they do. Because if you don't have someone who they fear, back to what you said previously, right? In
Mhm.
Islam, they fear, right? There's a figure that holds a line, so to speak, right? And I think the number one way how to do that is definitely through family, right? Just having everybody in the household, and the father in particular, just preaching, religious values.
Okay. Now that we got away from we're let's slowly get away from the religion and let's talk more
Beautiful.
about maybe your core values. So personally, I do have three core values: honor, courage, and commitment. What would yours be?
I think integrity, pride, and honor. Yeah,
You
those
mind
three.
going deeper with those three?
Yeah, so integrity would be doing something even when nobody else is watching, right? Doing the right thing, right?
Mm,
You and me are here in this podcast. I don't know everything you've done, but I
mm,
know something that the way to get here took quite a bit, right? And the integrity factor is something that I can't really see because you've been working on it for quite a while. So that's something that I carry myself is even in the dark, am I putting in the work to be a good person, right? That's extremely important. I remember when I was on your last podcast, I spoke about honor, And one thing that's very important to me about honor is I carry my last name, right? I know that my grandparents struggled to come here. They came here with literally nothing. I've had my grandparents, crying dinner tables and, talking about what they used to have. And
Hmm.
I feel a sense of pride and honor like that. I need to restore my name to what it was before, right? I have to do better every single day. And yeah, just carrying myself with pride in that sense. The reason why I say pride is because pride is just carrying myself even when I don't really have anything to my name, right? You always got to tell yourself, right? Fake it to you. It's kind of like fake it till you make it, right? That type of way of thinking. You
Hmm.
just have to do it, right? And eventually you develop the confidence,
Okay.
right?
Do you think pride comes with ego?
I think it does, but I think it's a healthy level of ego. It's an ego that's backed by results, right? There's people that are, egotistical that are haven't really done much, and that doesn't help. But if you're going into deals and maybe you're flying a plane and you've shown time and time again you can get them to the right point, or you can get this business to a more profitable area, yeah, it's good to carry yourself that way because you become more confident and you get more people to give you more jobs and stuff like that.
100%. Heard you say confidence a couple times.
Yeah.
Confidence could, a lot of people misconstrued it with arrogance, being cocky. What would you say sets aside confidence and arrogance?
Confidence is a proven track record. I think arrogance is not. Right. So confidence would be something like saying Tom Brady has won 7 Super Bowls. Right. He could probably win an eighth one. Obviously, he's retired. But if you were to come back, you could at least say, you know what, he has a track record. He could probably do it. Arrogance would be something like someone who pretty much, without proving anything, says they can do something. At least that's my definition of it.
I like that. I like that. And let's say someone walks in the room, and obviously, as a man, I think you should walk in the room as like you own the room, right? I think
Absolutely.
that's confidence.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, they try to like maybe lower themselves when they see someone with so much confidence. What would you say? How do you combat that as a man?
You know, I think that's a very interesting way of putting it. One thing that I have done to combat it is pretty much understanding that you have to understand where you came from, right? Not everyone comes from the same background. And one thing I always like to tell myself is maybe that person is better than me now, but just imagine if I put the work, right? Where can I be?
Hmm.
And nobody knows, right? That's the most interesting part. Yes, you could be confident. Yes, you could say you could do it, but until you actually put in the work and time goes through, you find out. But I've never had any doubt in my ability. And so when I see someone who's successful, I always tell myself, you know what? I'm going to get there.
I like that.
Yeah.
And to add more onto the question I asked you, I don't think you should lower your confidence. Like, even if you're at a young age and you haven't built any sign of credibility, you haven't built any type of authority, you haven't earned that title to maybe be confident in other people's eyes, I think you should still have that confidence, but learn how to be coachable. Don't be arrogant with it. Don't just walk around with your head high and be like, oh, no one could tell me what to do. You have to be able to take criticism. You could take criticism. People can knock on you, be like, oh, you're not good at doing this, you're not good at doing that. But take that as feedback. But you could still have a level of confidence. Would you agree to that?
I would agree. I mean, one thing I would add is, you want to find someone who has a good track record, who can coach you. That's something that's really helped me over time, is just finding someone who's already done something, and you can skip 85% of the pitfalls that you would fall if you probably did it yourself, right? So that's very important, I think, in that aspect.
So when you say someone that's, you said higher than yourself,
Higher than yourself, yeah,
so
absolutely.
you would say like a mentor.
A mentor, pretty much.
How do you find these type of mentors?
That's a great question, my friend.
Where do you go? Are you going to a club? Like, might
That's
go to the cigar lounge. Where do I find these mentors?
that's a hard question, but I'll answer it. That really depends. But the way I would answer is, you pretty much have to go into an industry and just try different people, try people's different models, right? You just try people on YouTube. I mean, there's models everywhere, right? Or I mean, my models, people, role models that you can have, right? There's people like, Justin Waller. There's all these sorts of influencers that you can follow and
Mhm.
have bits and pieces, because the way I look at it is you don't need just one person. You need 300, 400. Yes, I know it's not,
100%.
it's everybody has something, but they
Mhm.
don't have the whole puzzle, so to speak. So you need to just pick bits and pieces from everybody.
Okay. And let's say you wanted a direct mentor. Where would you how would you find that person?
Direct mentor.
Yeah, like
Cold call. That's what I think what you
cold
would do.
call.
Cold call, right? Because I
Okay.
mean, at that point, if you want a direct mentor, I mean, you're gonna want to deal with someone who probably doesn't have a lot of time, but you could show a lot of promise, and you can make him some. Pretty much, you're giving him value, right? And I
That's a
think
good word.
that's would help you get into the door, right? And that's how I've done it with everything. It's I would say, hey, look, maybe I'm not there yet, but I'm so coachable and I'm a quick learner. And along the way, they'll teach you, so long as you just have the good mindset. Even like having the good mindset in of itself is 50% of the battle. They'll probably accept you just on that. I mean, so that's an important thing.
Okay. And now that we're talking about mentors and stuff like that, that kind of coincides with networking, right? Putting yourself in the right places, the right positions to succeed. Let's say, let me give you an example. And let's say 18-year-old that just graduated high school, he doesn't know anyone. How does he start networking?
I guess it depends on the industry, but the one thing I would say is just go to seminars. I think that's important, right? You're gonna find a lot of people who are successful there. Because when you're 18 years old, remember, I mean, you don't have a lot of experience, you don't have a lot of money. So normally
100%.
those two things kind of coincide, right? You don't have experience, you don't have money. But if you go to these seminars, I mean, some of them are even free, right? You can go to them. And I remember when I was 18 years old, I used to go to real estate seminars. I didn't have money, but I pretended like I did. I was glad I did go, because you meet people who have interesting perspectives there, and they don't know any better, and it helps you.
I was surprised you said seminars. That is something that is free. I've asked that question a lot, and I don't think any one person has said seminars. Seminars is, I mean, you're just kind of putting yourself in like-minded places, right? Within whatever
Absolutely.
industry you're going to, you could find someone that's on your level. You could find someone maybe just kind of needs help that you could mentor yourself, and then someone that's above you. I think it's good in the aspect of mentoring and getting into business and becoming successful. That you need a mentor, a mentee, and then someone that's on the same level as yourself, just starting out. Uh, Getting into the business world, because you're a businessman yourself.
Absolutely.
How did you do that? What was the steps that you took?
So the steps that I took in particular was I looked for a mentor, and at the time, I pretty much had. I know how to get mentors. It's a very formulated type of way of doing it, right?
Hmm.
You're not tricking them, but it's pretty much you're trying to have the right mindset mixed with you could provide value, and
Hmm.
also being at the right place at the right time, so like a seminar or something like that. And yeah, I met a friend of mine. His name was Juan, and he was in this mergers and acquisitions, wearing the nice suits and ties, man.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to him like, man, I mean, being a pilot's great and all, man, but it's not gonna be, the end all be all for me, right? As a high achiever, you just can't stop, right, at just being a pilot. You got to have multiple streams of income, travel all around the world, so to speak, have money to do it. And yeah, he pretty much just guided me through it. He just took equity for a portion of the deals, and
Hmm.
taught me along the way, and I'm so grateful for him.
100%. I like that. And how do you kind of like, in a sense, catch the mentor's eye? Like when you speak to him, how do you stand out from the rest of the people that obviously you're trying to speak to him? Because clearly he's at the top in his industry or is doing great things that you want to be his mentee.
One thing that's worked for me and that I've utilized, I used to watch a lot of Tom Brady documentaries, man. I used to watch a lot of interesting people's. I studied a lot of history, and one thing I saw in common was there was a desire to learn. There was a burning desire to learn. That's what a lot of people don't know about Tom Brady. He wasn't always the best. He was on a 0-8 uh, football team in high school, and he was the second stringer,
Hmm.
right? He developed the will to want to learn. And through developing that type of skill set, people will eventually catch on because it becomes part of your aura, it becomes part of who you are. That I'm really trying to get better. And it's addicting. I mean, think about it, man. When you're talking to someone who really wants to learn and it's like eating everything you have to say, what do? Do you just push them aside, or no, you're like, okay, you seem like you got a good head on your shoulders, 100%. Right? And that's something that I like to do, and it's genuine. I mean, I do have a burning desire to be a better person each and every day. So that's how I have done it in the past, and I've gone out of my way to show them, hey, look, I care. I want to be here, and I need you to help me.
That's I like that. I like that. If you said, like, put it in a script, do you think you could do that?
I don't know about that much. It's genuine, man. It's not like I just,
Okay, I got
you. Like, oh, I do step 1, I do step 2, and it comes out to the end result. But it's.
Well, I feel for like people such as yourself, and maybe me. I think it's like kind of like second nature, right? Yeah. Just talking to people and just being you, just being natural. But I know there's a lot of people that don't have the skills and the articulation or the mindset that we do to just naturally go up to someone and have the tenacity, have the charisma to speak to someone like that.
But it always comes with the why. What's your why? All right. That's what at the end of the day is what it matters. Because if you have the why, then everything else comes, right? Don't tell me about your background. Don't tell me about your religion. I don't care about any of that. If you have a why, right? Michael Jordan's why was he got cut from, high school, right? High school varsity for basketball. Tom Brady had to work his way through multiple strings of quarterbacks to be considered a starter in high school, college, pro. You study all these guys that are very successful, right? They pretty much had to consistently work on that.
100%. So that's the first chapter, guys. Before we get into the next chapter, you know what I like to do. We're gonna say like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time we go live, guys. Make sure you become a member. When you become a member in the Mentuition Network, you're not only becoming a member in the Networking Show, you're becoming a member in Parallel Perspectives and Mentuition Academy. Guys, you can see all the things that all the tiers offer. You can start from the bottom, and as you keep growing with the Mentuition Network and you keep gaining free value from us and you keep developing as a person, just keep leveling up the tiers that you have. Since that's the end of the first chapter, which is networking, guys, make sure you write down your biggest takeaways from that. Go back at the end of the video and again, write even more takeaways. And then when we're done with the full live, that's when I want you to put everything, a whole summary together of what we've been talking about. But now we're going to get into chapter 2 if we don't have any questions, Steve.
We don't have any questions, but everyone's saying, yo, they like the stream. Peachy says, yo, baby, to you. Shout out, Peach. The Fritzo's in here. And Kate.
I appreciate the love. I appreciate the love. I see my boy John Cuzzo too.
John's in here too. Yes, sir.
Damn, I love it, guys. Okay, so let's get into chapter 2, which is fitness. Something I've been seeing you doing a lot of, brother. I mean, it's killer. Like it's motivating. Every time I see a video of him on Instagram in the fucking gym, I'm like, motherfucker, he's lifting 500 fucking pounds, and I'm just sitting here being a lazy fuck. What the hell is going on? So let's get into that. Is this something new for you, or have you always been into fitness and taking it serious and been consistent?
I would say most of my life I was into fitness. I was always into something. I didn't know what I really wanted to do, but in terms of fitness, I think everyone has their thing, right? So there's soccer, basketball, baseball. There's always something. And it happened to me to be weightlifting, man. I just love it, man. It's something that it just stuck with me. And the reason why it stuck with me is because I don't have to rely on genetics, right? I don't have to rely on anything. It's a bar and it's me. Mm-hmm. And I just have to every day show up, which is the key to life, right? It's consistency, just showing up every single day, right? No matter how bad it is, and just performing, right? And that's something that weightlifting has taught me, right?
I like that. For weightlifting, would you recommend everyone kind of do the style of weightlifting you do?
I mean,
If
that's
they're
hard to
starting out, at
say.
least.
That's hard to say. I don't know. One thing that I would say is the reason why I do it is I, grew up with a lot of family members that as they got older, right, they were weak and frail. And I started to study on that because to me, the most important part is just, am I healthy? Am I having in the future something that resembles, not having to be frail? That to me was a big, big part is, having someone who has cousins that are disabled and stuff like that. And I've just found out with weightlifting that it increases your bone density, which prevents the chances of you, developing any sorts of shrinkage that would cause you to be so weak you can't get off the couch. And yes, I know people like that. So that's something that has motivated me personally.
It actually grows your bone density?
Yeah, it grows your bone density dramatically.
For real?
Oh, massively. Yeah, you never be. So you could do basketball and be the same person 20 years later, but if you lift weights, 20 years later, you'll be completely different.
So it's not only like your tendons and the muscles that grow stronger; it is the bone density.
Yeah, the capillaries. Yeah, everything grows. I mean, larger. I mean, I used to be 5'8" and 100 pounds. Right now, I'm almost 5'11" and I'm 217. So even if I wanted to, I'm not gonna get back to 100.
Yeah,
that's not happening. Right. So that's my point. It does literally change you, completely. I mean, if I wanted to, unless like I wanted to look like a stick, I can't go to 180.
Word after that, without just not being too professional and strict right now. What's your PRs, brother? Because I swear I'm telling you, I go on Instagram, he's like he's squatting 5 reps of 500 like it's light. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on right now?
My squat is 530. My deadlift is 520. My barbell bench press is 330, and my standing shoulder press is 235.
Fuck, bro. What?
It's been a process, bro. It's been a process.
That's actually crazy though. Like would you consider that's like 1% of what people can do? Like out of all the people maybe in the nation? No,
I don't like to think like that. But
probably the 1%.
Because I always think there's a new mountain to climb. But yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, like,
probably the 1%.
Who's just who's squatting 500? I mean, besides the bodybuilders and power lifters, which is again a small, very small population of people. And I think that's something big, right? If you're doing 1% of fitness, you're doing 1% of everything else in life, right? That's gonna carry with everything that you do. How do you think fitness has helped you with that?
It's helped me in my personal life because of the fact that, I mean, just being under a lot of weight and a lot of pressure, right? That equates to being a pilot. You don't always have the most amount of time as a pilot, and you always got to make quick decisions that are safe. And you're just under a lot of pressure, and you always have to perform. And that's something that weightlifting has provided me. It has provided me an outlet to be able to pretty much every single day show consistency, which is important as a pilot. You always get the checklists. You got to come to the plane, nice and clean with the same uniform. So nothing really changes, right? Maybe some things change, but that's what I really love about weightlifting. It's the consistency. If you have to show up.
100%. And weightlifting is not the only thing that you do. I also see boxing on your Instagram, which also fires me up. Boxing, and to myself, is something that's very competitive. It's something that I think all men should do.
I agree.
What 100%. Got you into boxing, and is this something new also, or is this something that you've been doing from a young age?
I haven't been doing this for very long, but it's one thing that I love about boxing, right, is, Joe Rogan once said this, and I couldn't agree more. And that's, you could have someone who said, hey, man, I beat you in basketball 21-0. And then the other guy could be like, yeah, but I can kick your ass.
Which one holds more weight?
Yeah. So in that sense,
I'd rather be the one beating the ass than beating you in basketball.
Because there's nothing left. And the reason why a lot of people, feel that way about boxing, there's nothing left, is because if you were figuratively, like, let's say you were in a desert, right? And you were fighting just you and him, you could die, right? And that's everything. You can walk away from a basketball court, no problem, right? You just scored 21 points, you lost. Yeah, it's demoralizing, but you still have your life. And that's something I love about boxing. It's a true warrior sport, literally. I mean, it goes back, we're talking to ancient times.
100%.
And yeah, that's something I do love
And
about
boxing
boxing.
is not only a physical sport; it's a mental. It's like you're playing chess. You have to move 10 steps ahead, 20 steps ahead.
Absolutely. You have to find habits in the person, right? That's something that no matter how long you are in boxing, you always are having to strategize. And that's what I love about boxing as well is people have tendencies and you could study that. And that applies even to your personal life, right? Or, business. You tend to find where people are good at and what people are not good at, and you utilize that.
100%. Brother, would you say that it's better to have mental fortitude than physical fortitude?
I think physical fortitude comes first and then mental fortitude because you get to train that muscle in your head, which is being able to take pain, right? Someone who's able to take a lot of pain is going to succeed, right? There's so many times in my life where, everything is collapsing and you have to stay calm and you have to just put your head down and just work at it, man. And you have to find multiple solutions. But if you're panicking the whole time and, you're not training your brain how to, through physical exercise, just be in difficult and uncomfortable circumstances, then in those moments you're gonna crash and burn.
Okay. And what do you say, since we're on the chapter of fitness, what would you say for the people that say I don't have time to go to the gym?
No, that's bull. That's bullshit. I mean, that's first of all, that's an excuse. And so I say to people like that, what's your why? We talked about this earlier, right? Do you really want to be that person who wakes up in the morning feeling terrible? Um, I have a friend, man. He's a doctor, and he told me something, and it definitely changed my life. He goes, "Look, man, all I want to do is just wake up in the morning and feel good. That's it in terms of health, right? I don't need to have the big back and all that stuff. Now it does help to have that, but in terms of that's what I'm always chasing every day. As someone who's maybe thinking about just wanting to look good, that's not enough, man, because not every day are you going to go in the gym and it's going to be so much, you're going to be that much different, right? I don't change that much anymore, but I could feel it in my health. And that's one thing that I definitely value above anything else is feeling good.
And would you say that's something that's something that you need to implement if you want to be successful, or is that something that you don't really need?
Absolutely, man. I mean, if you walk into a room, right, and you are absolutely out of shape, people are going to notice that. They're going to notice that you're sloppy, right? At least very successful men are going to catch that just like that. And they'll test you, right? Just like women test men, right? It's the same thing. Men will test other men in certain ways to find out, can you really handle this assignment, right? And they know that if you are out of shape and you are fat, right? You're pretty much, you could at least say that you're not uncomfortable. You're not comfortable in a lot of situations, so to speak.
100%. I think with someone that always going to the gym, someone that's physically fit, there's a level of respect that you automatically get. It's a sign of like kind of credibility. And credibility is huge in anything that you're doing. And if you're a physical fit person, that means you could at least, like you said, we're saying earlier, can take pain. You're disciplined.
Absolutely.
There's other skills and traits that you get from being, I guess, a fit person, someone that's takes care of their health. What would you say is the biggest way someone could start getting into that slowly? Because again, you said excuses, which is 100%.
There's definitely
The hundred,
excuses.
it's a
Yeah,
hundred percent fact.
there's
Hundred
no other
percent
way
fact.
around it. Yeah,
But
it's definitely,
someone
yeah.
if you just dose someone in the gym, let's be real, and you like go do something like some crazy amount of workout, right? Something that you do, like all your workouts. Do you think they're really going to survive after 2 weeks?
Nah, man, nah, absolutely not. But like anything in life, right? I don't expect you to just hop into one thing and just be an expert on it. It's been you see me now and you're like, oh well, you're doing all this, but it wasn't always that way. There was a point where I was doing 5 pounds, on the bench press per side, so it wasn't always great. But you have to have mental discipline and say, okay, today I'm gonna do this. And And a lot of guys are like, but I want to be this and this and this. And it's like, I didn't start that way. Just like, okay, I know I'm not strong because I was not strong at the time. All right. So how do I get strong? See, it starts with the question. And it starts with the why as well, right? And you just come in there one day at a time, man. And eventually you become addicted. I promise you, right? I just came in there with, I need to get a little bit better. Now it's like, man, I didn't work out today, man. Oh, I feel terrible. You know, it just becomes a part of your ritual, so to speak.
100%. And guys, I don't know if you're picking that up, but guys, think about it. Listen to what he's saying, and I hope again you're writing down your biggest takeaways. You also touched on your why again. He talked about his why in networking and finding a good mentor, and now you're talking about it in fitness. What's your why? Is your why sense of a motivation or a reason that you have to push and do things in life? Or what's the reason for having a why?
Are we talking about in just fitness?
Overall.
You know, man, I wasn't always the best. I wasn't considered, the guy who you'd pick out of a lineup and say, that guy is going to be successful. That wasn't me. I had cousins who were a lot more successful than me. I tell people all the time, my cousins were 5.0 students. Yeah, I didn't know it was above 4.0, but it does. And I was always a 2.7, 2.8 GPA guy.
Right with me, brother.
Yeah, brother.
2.8, graduated 2.8.
And my dad, I didn't know it at the time. My dad had a point, man. He had a guy who actually worked for him. And the guy's like, yeah, man, I used to get, 4.0s and, an engineering test because my dad's an electric engineer. He goes, I used to get, 99% on the test. And my dad said, yeah, but I got a 2.8 and you work for me. And the reason why I tell that story is, when you are not, handpicked to be the best, there is a feeling of inadequacy that develops. And as it develops and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you hit a breaking point, as I call it the point of no return, right? Everyone has it. For me in particular was when I actually got expelled from high school. That was to me.
You got expelled?
I got expelled, brother. I got expelled. Yeah, man. And
that's huge.
Yeah, man. It was absolutely detrimental coming from a family that, everybody was 5.0 students, going to FSU. My cousin applied to Harvard, almost got in. He didn't get in, but at least they at least considered him, right? Which is quite incredible. And that why factor never left me. Like, okay, like nobody believed in me then. Watch me, because I'm going to accomplish something great.
I like that mindset.
Yeah.
And it's funny that it's crazy, and I want to touch on this now. Every time a successful person talks to me, they always tell me, yo, I had a 2.8, I had a 2.8. Or
it's always
they had
range,
something
bro.
in a C. It was always
man.
a C GPA. Why is it always people with C GPAs that are the entrepreneurs, the people that are the bosses, and it's the workers that had the 4.0s, the clean cut, the in the sense nerds had the 4.0s and the A's. They're the workers. Why is that?
I think the 4.0 students are pretty much just follow the system. I can't think outside of the box. That's what I really think, right? I used to have a mindset, and looking back, I mean, it wasn't that detrimental. I mean, maybe detrimental to school, but I would do the bare minimum to just, succeed in that area, and I'd work on other things. I mean, I wasn't good in those things either, but I learned with time that, you really want to just have the most effective time. You want to, how do I word this? You want to, when you're working, you want to make sure that for the least amount of time, you're getting the most amount of work done. That's how I would say it, right? And I think that's an important value that I've learned. It's just to squeeze everything out of short amount of times. And that's what I would say.
Just for a second, I want to go back to what I said. Do you, honestly, I mean, because a lot of successful people,
Yeah.
Do they really have, on the school level, were they getting 4.0s, or were they really getting, C averages?
It's crazy because high school, you could get in those AP classes, those, advanced classes, you can get a C+, and, they bump you up 1.0, and you get a 4.0.
Yeah, bro, it's wild. It's wild.
So it goes, all the way through,
Yeah, but I don't know, bro. Every successful person I know, besides, again, I do, besides the doctors, because I know doctors and stuff, none of them were like really good at school, and they'll say, "Yeah, I wasn't really good at school," or something. That's a trend. I feel like I need to look that up. I probably need to do research. That there's probably something that's big on that. Like you're
Well, Bill
saying,
Gates, for example. I mean, look at Bill Gates, for example. You can look at Mark Zuckerberg. You can look at these people, and Steve Jobs, for example. You look at all these revolutionaries, people who really just changed the way we thought about things, and they didn't finish college, or at least they did towards the end of their lives. But that wasn't, they didn't get the 4-year degrees. Maybe I guess they got somewhat good grades, but they understood that that's not the way how to build wealth, man. I really do believe that. I think it's just a factory to produce workers right now. It's not the way how to go.
100%. And he's talking about building wealth. So that's going to kind of lead us into our next chapter, which is skills. I do like this chapter. I'm 100% ready for this chapter. So for chapter 2, the fitness chapter, it was a little small section. But guys, again, do your biggest takeaways and hear a lot of the things he said. I do like it. Of course, you already know I'm going to go back and I'm going to jot some notes down, my biggest takeaways. Guys, write like on a notes on your phone, screenshot it, put it on your story, tag myself and Edward, and we'll repost it. And I'm ready to see your biggest takeaways. So for this next chapter, guys, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time we go live. Steve, any questions before I go into this next one?
No questions right now.
All right, let's do it. All right, so this next chapter is going to be talking about skills. What type of skills do you think you need to be successful? What are the like 3 main skills that you need?
I mean, there's a lot of skills, but I think one thing is, and I harp this the most on young kids nowadays, because man, they're not very good at it, right? And it's you got to be a likable person, right? You can't be obnoxious. I think that's one skill that I think is very important. The ability not only to be a likable person, but I think in number 2, you really want to be a guy who could formulate your ideas and make sure that the other person receives it, right? It doesn't help if it's like the way I'd like to say it is, if you're on a construction site and the guy doesn't understand your instructions, the building's not going to be built, right?
100%.
You want to make sure that that person understands what you're talking about. And you have to be likable, because if the guy doesn't like you and he doesn't understand your instructions, then it doesn't really mean anything. And yeah, those are the 2 skills, I think. But I think for a third one, you know what? I think it'd be really important that I can't think of a third one right now, but yeah, I think I would go those 2, to be honest with you. Those two, man.
Okay.
Those are my biggest ones that I think are very important.
I like that. Leadership is a huge thing. Leadership.
Yeah,
what do you think makes a good leader? Because if you want to be successful, I think most successful people have traits or tendencies of leaders. Because I mean, obviously, you could be a good number 2, right? I had the pleasure of having a good brother of mine and hopefully future mentor of mine, Mr. Haas Boosie, on, and he was talking about you could be a good number 1 and a good number 2, right? The good number 1 can't be a good number 2, and the good number 2 can't be a good number 1. But these guys both have great leadership skills. How do you become that great leader, though?
By becoming a great follower. That's how you do it. You have to be able to find someone who has skills, follow them, develop them yourself, and then because you have the confidence, right? You see someone who's lower than you, you could be able to, you could be able to tell them what you've learned, right? That's how I look at it. Doesn't matter who you look at in history, they've had to learn from some sort of mentor at one point that showed them the ropes, and then eventually they came to their own, right? I mean, it's kind of like a baby, right? A baby doesn't come out, being a leader, right? It has to learn. You have to grow as a person. Eventually, then you could become a leader.
Okay. And would you recommend people learn through, I guess, books, or what's another way they would learn?
I would say reading a lot of books is a really good idea. Finding out how other people did it, right? That's a really good and important way how to do it. Look at biographies. Look at all sorts of influential figures and find out how they led countries.
100%.
Right? I mean, if you could lead a country, Napoleon Bonaparte, for example, man, George Washington. There's a ton of figures that you could find. You can go to your public library and just find that out real quick, or Amazon.
100%. But I think in our kind of, I can't say yours, in my generation, people don't like reading, right? They would rather be on social media. They would rather get that instant gratification, scroll, scroll, scroll. And you know what really makes me upset? That China, TikTok is more educational. In China, the school system, the education, it's different from what America is, right? The American school system hasn't changed, it hasn't developed. But on the other side, the Chinese school system has changed and is developed. The Russian school system has changed and has developed. Why hasn't our school system changed and developed to produce more leaders? And it's kind of stuck in that same mentality of what's his name? The Rockefeller said, I want a nation full of workers, not thinkers. Why haven't we changed that? Even though we know he's developed the school system.
You know, it's incredible. You know, a lot of people used to tell me, you know, people who are older than me, that you used to come out of a college and you used to have some sorts of skills, right? That's what would normally come out of it. And one thing that I noticed in these school systems are they just teach a lot of things that they shouldn't be teaching, right? And in these Chinese schools, there's a curriculum, and there's nothing outside of that curriculum. There's nothing about, you know, sexual ed or you know, all these sorts of, you know, like in college are teaching lesbian dance theory and, you know, underwater basket weaving, all these sorts of topics that just don't make any sense. And they understand that if they're going to build a country, it starts with having the right curriculum. And through that, then they could build a good amount of people who pretty much can, in the future, produce a lot. And that's why they're producing a lot. Look at them now. They're producing a ton. So
100%.
That's one thing that, yeah.
And do you think our society is trying to do that?
I think it's on purpose. I'll be quite honest with you. I think that they are trying to suppress kids. I think it is a very big dilemma that I think the United States is starting to wake up to, at least somewhat, right? They're starting to find out about, you know, kids that are being told they're a boy, but they're really a she, right? For example, you see things like this. I don't see that happening in China, right? It's just little distractions that don't need to be happening, and it's just crazy how we've developed into this culture. Because I mean, growing up, man, I don't remember that, man. I'll be quite honest with you, man. I mean, as far as it went was, you know, you were gay and that's it. But I mean, there wasn't all this extra weird classes. I mean, my parents would have revolted if that were the case, 100%, man.
100%.
So,
but with people, with that, in the sense, if that's going to change and people are going to keep waking up, what needs to happen is communication, and that starts from within the household. I think now, again, like you touched on earlier, they're breaking up the household. They're taking the father out of the picture. I think that we need to have some type of dialogue that is kind of educating the population in whole to bring all of that back together. So now I'm talking about dialogue and communication, and our chapter is about skills. I want to get back on that topic. Speech is a number one skill with being successful. How do you develop your speech?
It starts with just talking to one person, and you work your way up, right? As I've gotten more and more entrusted with responsibility, I've had to communicate to 5, 6, 7 different people with different backgrounds, and I've had to do it in different manners. And that's something that just comes with being able to be competent. Once you're competent, people can sense it in you. And with that, you're able to just speak to different people. So I would say first develop competence, and then afterwards you could start working on displaying your competence, right? Through a manner of speech.
Okay. And how would you, I want to break that down a little. Competence. What does that mean for you?
Competence means you have a track record in a certain subject, and it shows through your speech, right? if I come in here and I don't sound confident, right, you'll notice it right away, right? So when I come talk about weightlifting, I know what I'm talking about. When it's coming to planes, you're gonna tell right away if I really am not a pilot or not, and you're just gonna.
100%.
I don't believe this guy, man. And this doesn't matter what I say. I could say it the nicest way possible. I could try to sell you the dream, but if you don't see that I have a background that I can actually do those things, then it just doesn't matter.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Before we started the live, I was asking you about how much would it cost for 12 people to get to Las Vegas, and you were talking about G2s, 3-4s, and Challengers and stuff like that. And I might have said the wrong makeup planes just now, but he was saying this crazy stuff. I can't replicate that, right? But the confidence that he had to say all these different types of planes, he said. Or you could go G4 and it's a nicer build and stuff like. I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" It's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but hey, bro,
it has a nice interior.
Yeah,
it has nice cookies. That's all.
Yeah, right. It sounds good, and the way you say it is so confident that, like, why would I argue against you? Like, why would I say anything against what you're saying if I don't know anything on the topic, and you're so confident? Like, right? You're like. I forgot the question I asked, but you said, no, if you want a nicer interior, you should probably go with this one. That kind of goes down to credibility too,
Correct.
Right? And that says a lot of what type of person you are, right? How do you develop character, right? Because I think a character is kind of everything that you build from all your skills that you have. How do you develop that, right? Because I think a lot of men in the world now, they don't have a kind of they don't have guidance, right? So how would they build their character instead of building a character of maybe a feminine guy or a over emotional guy?
Well, I mean, for character, for me, the way I developed it was pretty much understanding that there was other people. So what I did was, in particular, when I wasn't doing too well, I actually studied all these great figures that I absolutely admired, like Andrew Carnegie, the Rockefellers, George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, also, Elon Musk. These people who had an immense impact on humankind, right? And I wondered, what was it in particular about them that got them to that place? And you know what I ended up finding out through studying their backgrounds? The overwhelming majority of them, if you were to read out, before their successes, just their list of failures, you'd be like, that guy is literally dead, or he's not doing anything with his life.
Mm-hmm.
But those failures is what helps you learn. It molds you. I don't walk the same as I did 5 years ago. I don't talk the same as I did 5 years ago. I don't think the same as I do 5 years ago, because each and every day I stand guard trying to make sure that I have a better overall mindset, because I know that the people who have failed have structured themselves to succeed. And that's what you have to do. Just structure yourself to succeed.
So you would say take
risks, man. Abraham Lincoln, for example, he failed at 10 different elections. I mean, he failed in everything you can imagine. Even like the mails guy, he applied for being a mailmaster, which was a position in a city. He didn't get it. He went for the presidential election in 1856. He failed. Nobody wants to talk about that, and nobody cares, right? All we know is he was a great man. He did great things, and that's all that matters. And that's really what a lot of people have to understand, is look not at what he or she has accomplished. Look at their background. How did they get there, right? And you could just remodel that.
And you think you personally, you gain more knowledge, or you become more successful by your wins or your losses?
Definitely by your losses, because it's hard to reflect when you're winning. I remember hearing that, I don't know from who, in a speech about when they lost basketball games. And I can't agree more with that. Like, it's pretty much like when you lose, you take everything into account, right? When you're positive, optimistic, you have this sort of naiveness to you that you just allow things just go underneath the carpet. And little by little, it starts to build up. And eventually, that's where the losses start to come, right? It's like someone who, they become successful and they start to hang out with people who are not of their caliber, right? Yeah, maybe not right away. They won't, collapse, but it takes time, right?
100%. And you talked about it earlier. You're a private jet pilot.
Absolutely.
What type of skills do you need for that? Because, bro, that just sounds. It's people are trusting their lives with you, right? And it's obviously in a commercial flying. If you're flying about 100 people, that's a huge feat, right? But these are billionaires, multimillionaires trusting you with their lives. Does that like how do you do that? Like, is that have you ever got scared? Like, I don't even know how I want to formulate these questions right now. Like,
Yeah.
what is the feeling?
I get that question so many times, man. It's quite interesting. Even though I'm answering 100th time, I still like it. Honestly, here's what it is. You get trained so well being a pilot, and a lot of people don't make it through, right? Not on the way to becoming a pilot, I actually was a certified flight instructor. I taught people how to fly. And I learned that there's a very important skill you have to have in order to become a pilot, and that's to think very quickly under pressure. It's not one of those things you could just like, all right, we'll just figure this out 2 minutes, 3 minutes from now. No, you got 10 seconds. Figure it out like right now, right? And yeah, it's a very particular skill set. It's quite interesting. I'll be quite honest with you. It's stressful, but it's fun.
Is that something that you always had like a dream of doing, or it was just right place, right time?
Since I was a kid, I've always, that's one area where I've been extremely blessed. I always knew what I wanted to do, right? I knew I wanted to be a pilot, or actually, at first I thought I wanted to be in aviation, and I wanted to be air traffic controller. Thank God I did not go that route. But
oh shit, he sneaked this in. He sneaked this in.
No, that wouldn't have been great.
You have any buddies that are air traffic controllers?
I don't, but I try not to have them as friends. So that's nothing against them. It's a stressful job, man. It's extremely stressful. And it is not from a place of I think they're bad people. I just have so much respect for them for what they do. It's a difficult job, man. It's extremely difficult. It's not easy, man. So
do you think it's harder than being the pilot?
Oh hell yeah. Yeah, there's
100%?
no doubt about it. Oh, no doubt about it, man.
Wait, what's I know you're not an air traffic controller, but obviously you probably have the knowledge about it. What's so hard about it?
I think the thing about being an air traffic controller is the brain was made for rest, right? It was made for, hey, short periods followed by some breaks, right? That's why, for example, we're very good at sprinting, but we're not very good at running long distances. And when you look at air traffic controllers, man, they're just looking at a screen and they're just like, you need to turn here and you need to turn there and you need to go here and this and this and this. And it's just nonstop. And they do that for 2 hours. Their brain's done after 2 hours. Man, it's
that's how long the shifts are? Just 2 hours? I mean,
it's 2 hours at a time. And they do it only for
Okay.
3 shifts. But it doesn't matter because they get 2 hours, 1 hour break, 2 hours, 1 hour break, and the other 2 hours. And it's required by federal law, right? They have to take an hour break, and a lot of them are
between every 2 hours, or can you go for like for 4 hours and then do 1 hour break?
From what I was told, it's 2 hours followed by 1 hour of break, right? They have to have a break. That I'm certain. They have to have a break. And it's something that I absolutely because as a pilot, you just all right, you take off. Everything's intensive the first 15 minutes of a flight. All right, you do this and this and this, and it just turns like that. But in terms of an air traffic controller, it doesn't end, right? I mean, they have sometimes some of them they're dealing with the air and the ground. So that's people don't know about that, but yeah, I have immense respect for them.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's something I guess you really got to admire because, like you just said, air and ground, and if you have to kind of gauge where they're turning, and if you're only looking at a screen for 2 hours, this is not something that you're just resting or you're taking any breaks in those 2 hours. This is a extensive 2 hours of if this person turns a little right, a lot of shit could go wrong, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn, that's actually crazy.
And everything's recorded, man. Everything's recorded up there. I guess everything for pilots as well, but it's a little different, man. It's they actually work for the federal government, right?
Okay.
Or some of them are private, but majority of them are.
So
public.
would you say air traffic controllers have more power than actual pilots?
I would say so. I guess that's hard to say, right? I mean, I guess if you look at overall, I guess then yes. But there are some pilots that exercise extreme power, and that's piloting is more of an individualistic type of career. Meaning, you could get a captain who absolutely takes command of everything and doesn't care what the air traffic controller says. If he has an emergency, he needs to come down, right? So that's where that comes into frame. And air traffic controllers in general, just on a day-to-day basis, they have more control.
And would you recommend anyone to be a pilot?
I would. I think it's a great career. I think it's absolutely good. The only thing I would say about being a pilot is, and I mean, you have to be okay with that, is you're going to be on the road a lot. That's a lot of things. I don't know why some people don't like that. I've never been that guy, man. I like traveling. So
yeah, I would say like you get to chill for a second, like in
yeah,
a whole
bro.
different country or whole different city, like and you do international flights, correct?
Yeah, I do international flights. I mean, it's, while everyone's working their 9 to 5, right? That's why I love being a pilot. I just fly for 3, 4, 5 hours somewhere, land. I'm there for 2, 3 days, and I'm working on my other businesses. So that's one thing that I do like about being a pilot. I got more time.
And is it better to be a private pilot or a commercial pilot? Or
see, that's a very tailored. I can't give a. This depends on the individual. I mean, like, if you're someone who you're only looking for pay and you don't want to explore the world very much, then be a commercial pilot, and you get a very stable family structure, because with commercial, they have fixed schedules that ahead of time. And as you're on those schedules, right, you have a lot of breaks, and you could be able to have family and plan events and stuff like that. As a corporate pilot, you are going to, or let me finish the commercial. For the commercial, you'll land somewhere, you'll stay there the night, and you're gone the next day. And that happens for about 15 days. And maybe you may have one layover somewhere, which is, you stay there for multiple days, but it's not very frequent. In corporate, it's very frequent where you're staying at places for multiple days and you're just staying in a hotel. So I tell people, yeah, I fly 12 days, but I'm in a hotel probably, 5, something like that. So,
and this is like kind of for corporate, it's more random, would you say?
It's more random. It's just on call. I mean, thank God my job, for example, they'll at least give me 12 hours notice.
Okay, I was about to say, what happens if someone called you like, yo, Edward, you gotta come right now? That shit.
That's a fear I have, bro, man.
Really?
Yeah, bro. I mean, not that I put myself in a position not to make it, but it's always in the back of my head to check my phone.
Has it ever happened? Where you were just sitting there at dinner or something, and they've been like, "Oh yeah, yo, Edward, like, come on, bro, like, we gotta go real quick."
Yeah, it has happened to me where they've, just randomly just said that, but that was on the road, and they're like, "Oh, we got to do this," and I didn't know that was happening, and there was a problem with the email. But yeah, man, it is something that is unfortunate, but that's a career,
and this probably helps you with networking.
Absolutely, man. That's one thing. That's probably the most important part, in my opinion, of corporate, is you get to go to these cities and you get to spend time. And because normally the owners you fly for in corporate, that's what I do. I have owners, but I also fly for profit for regular customers. But the owners are always going to the same places. So the cool part is you get to develop sort of a reputation in that city. And you could just, on your days off, you have multiple days off, you can go hang out with people. And that's what I always do, because I'm always working, right? No matter what it is, hanging out with friends, even I consider that work, because I'm trying to become a better person.
100%. And now we'll get away from the pilots section of what you do as business, and let's get into the mergers and acquisitions.
Absolutely.
What type of skills do you need for this?
It's quite a ton. I think one thing in particular you really have to do is you have to be able to not just remove emotion, because a lot of these guys, they have different problems that you have to just remove it out of the equation. I spoke earlier about, there was a girl who was selling her business, and we were asking her, like, why are you selling? You're making, or why did it stop? Because she even stopped selling stuff on her website. And she was afraid of COVID. She didn't want to deal with the supplier sending the supplies over to her house, which she then package up and send it to the customers.
She didn't want to get COVID.
She didn't want to get COVID. And she was making, I mean, it was incredible. She was making about 1.5 million in net earnings, and she just cut it right then and there. You'd be
Like
shocked,
that?
man. You'd be shocked, man. There's people like that out there, man.
Shit, not me. Fuck out of here.
What
you talking about?
brother? I don't like you, but
1.5.
I gotta make money, brother.
Yeah, I don't know,
Shit,
fuck
oh,
COVID shit. I might have to catch that shit, man. One time.
Hey, brother.
Was she
Hey,
older?
kill
Was
me.
you older lady? Is that what it is?
Yeah, she was, bro. But you know how it is, man. Some of these people in these cities, man, they're just nuts, man. They're crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. 1.5 million, brother. I was in shock. I was like, that sounds unreasonable. But I said, okay, that's fine. You have that, political belief and whatever you want to believe in that. Yeah, liberal bullshit,
Yeah. Makes sense.
It is what it is, man. I just try to profit off of it, man, in a genuine way. And I'm not trying to, she's the one who picked that position. But that's one aspect I would say. Another aspect is being able to see the value. One thing that Warren Buffett definitely, when I was reading a lot of his books, harped on was you have to evaluate future potential. You can't just look at where it's at right now. You have to say, well, 5 years down the line, what can I just tweak that will make this a little bit better? And that's another thing that I look at. So, for example, if I'm looking at a online business, I'll look at, well, this business is doing well in Italy. Why isn't it in the U.S.? It looks like this product would kill it in the U.S. And, you find things like the owner doesn't want to expand there. He doesn't speak the English, right? See, small jumps you could do that really make a big difference in the long term.
Okay. And is this like something that your common middle wage, what is it? What's the middle class? Is this something they could get into easily?
Absolutely. But I don't think they will. The reason being is I really feel this is a class of people who are trying to keep this on the down low, right? The reason being is because it's extremely profitable. I mean, you could put, 10-15% down on a $200,000 business, and overnight you're making $100,000. It's crazy, right?
That's a crazy number.
Yeah, you just do that and you could pretty much get into the atmosphere. And you could do that multiple times. Think about that. I mean, if you do 3 of those a year, you're making $300,000.
All you need the loan, right? Is that what you're saying? Because
you
said 10,
well,
10
you
to
can
15% down.
You can find small business, they call SBA loans, which are pretty much that a group of investors that will evaluate a business that has normally about 2 years of track record in the U.S. and they'll lend you the money so long as you provide about. Some of them differ. I have one that does 5%, but you can get some that get 10% down. That's the standard, 10%. And they'll finance the rest of it.
Good. You see, someone that I need to know. Yeah, 5%.
Right? Fuck? They say it's who you know, right?
Right.
It's not what you know.
Yeah, your net worth is shit. Your net worth is your net worth, man.
Absolutely, brother.
That's wild. 5%.
5%, brother. Yeah, that's $10,000. I mean, there's people who could say
on 100,000, 200,000.
Well, I guess if you're talking about 100,000, 5, bro. That's good, bro.
That's good.
And it's over 10 years, man.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
he knows the right people. So basically, if you want the connects, hit Edward up. 5% on a 100K loan is wild. That's wild. That's pretty good though. But that also comes with over time, right? You building the right connections and you doing the right networking and you putting yourself in the right positions to succeed, right? With all the skills that you build. So mergers and acquisitions. You said it's an easy business to get into. Would you recommend someone starting to deep dive into a company that's, let's say, has cash flow of 25,000, so that it's like maybe 250,000 in total?
I would absolutely say that you can hire people, man. You can hire fractional CFOs. You can hire people to run the business, and you don't have to worry about anything. You can just pay them a slight salary, and they'll just manage it for you. That's another thing too, right? And that's what I love about the e-commerce business. It's not time intensive, and that what worries me the most, right? I know that if I have a ton of time, I could work on making more money. But if I am poor on time, there's not really much you could do, right? If you have a schedule, you have 100 hours, you're working 99, right? You're not going to accomplish much in 1 hour, right? And that's the way how to look at it. And the e-commerce business is automated. You just have someone who just clicks on a website, goes to the shopping cart, buys it, it's in their door, and you get a profit right away. And all you got to do is just hire a CFO, hire an ad manager who does it 5 hours, maybe 10 hours a week, and you only have to oversee it for maybe a phone call of 3 hours a week.
And what are like some tweaks that you can make to the business to make sure it generates a little more income? Because obviously you're not just going to buy a business. Oh, let's say it's making $25,000 cash flow, and you're just going to let it sit there and keep doing that. Well, I wouldn't think. I've never done merger and acquisition. I would think you want to keep building and elevate it. So what are the tweaks that you do to it?
There's a ton of things you could do. There's different ways how to advertise and different platforms that you could be on that are really important. So for example, you got, Amazon, you got Etsy, you got Shopify, you got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got all these platforms that you could be advertising on that could help you make sales. And that's what you want. I mean, it's the same as retail, right? You want to make sure you're in different stores. You don't just want to be in one store.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's really going to help you. I mean, Apple doesn't just sell in person, right? They sell online as well. There's multiple ways they sell, and that's how you have to find is how to reach the masses.
I like that. Before we close out, is there any messages that you want to spread to maybe the youth, just for just life in general?
Oh, Basil, we have a question from the chat too.
Let's do it.
I will do one. Yeah, Sarah had a question. She said, question for Edward: who has been your biggest inspiration, and have there been any key moments with someone that taught you something you carry with you to this day?
That's it's hard to say one particular person. I have a lot of mentors, but one person in particular that would kind of shock you, someone who I actually have as a mentor, is actually Benjamin Franklin. Someone who I absolutely admired by. Believe it or not, it's Elon Musk's also favorite role model. And one thing I love about him is that people don't know this, but he was actually homeless at one point, and he ended up becoming one of the most important figures in American history, to the point where we have him on the currency, right? We still haven't left his image. And I learned a lot through him. And the number one thing he taught me in particular, and I'll never forget it, there's a story in his biography where he was actually in the printing press. And every day he used to just get into his printing press, and he was a hard worker. He saved his money. He never really bothered anybody. He just did what he had to do. And the workers just became envious of him. And one day, Benjamin Franklin would look at his stuff. He's like, man, I put this paper in here, I put it, and I press it, and it's supposed to show the text of the newspaper. And they would find that letters were misspelled, things were happening to it. And he started to see all these sort of problems coming up. And he found out the reason why it was happening was the reason they're getting envious was because he wasn't taking them out to have beers, or he wasn't going out with them to certain places. And so he found out as he continued that the way to how to stop these problems, though it's a small token and it's a price to pay, was to maybe he didn't partake in the actual beers, but he actually just bought everybody beers. And so you have to understand the laws of human nature. Whether you want to admit that or not, we are bound by that. And if you understand yourself, you can conquer any problems you have in your life.
Oh, I like that one. And you talk about laws of nature. So before we close it out, Robert Greene, his book. Have you read it?
Fire. I haven't read all of them, but I have read some. I read half of the book.
Yeah. Okay. So Robert Greene is amazing. But what were some books that have helped develop you?
I would say a lot of the Dale Carnegie books, How to Stop Worrying, for example, helped me immensely. I used to be a worrier, man. I used to worry myself up, bro. I would just it was just fun to me, man. It's something that I used to do. And I learned that through, that book in particular, How to Stop Worrying, because it is a disease, man. It's something that really will affect you. I've read multiple biographies, read Benjamin Franklin, Elon Musk, George Washington. I looked at the Rockefellers, Andrew Carnegie. I also read How to Win Friends and Influence People. I learned as I got older that your success. I like to tell people this, and they think think it's interesting when I say this, and it's, it doesn't matter what you know, man. You could, say you have a formula to change the world, but if nobody likes you, it just doesn't work, right? You can show in a room like, hey, man, I got the recipe right here, right? And you're so obnoxious and you're so annoying, nobody wants to hear it, right? I like to tell the story of Tesla, for example. Tesla is an absolutely one of the most intelligent men in the history of mankind, but not a lot of people remember him. Why? Because not a lot of people liked him, right? Thomas Edison was relatable. He was extremely likable. He had all these marketing tactics. And he understood how people thought, and he prevailed in the end. So,
100%.
Yeah.
He did prevail.
Yeah.
I like that, guys. Again, do you want to spread any message to the youth?
I would say something that you have to understand is you see these two people in this couch here, and you have to understand something. You may look at Basil and just see that he's sitting in this nice places. He's going to the yachts. He's getting these nice cars. You see me with the suit, and you may be intimidated, but understand that behind the suit, behind Basil's yacht, behind all these things started a why and working daily to get better. It is not a yearly thing. It is a daily thing. It's a minute by minute thing. It's a second by second thing. You have to be always competing against yourself, right? And always understand that you have a portion of yourself. If the way I like to think of it is you have a portion of yourself that's always doing better than you're actually doing, right? And you're always competing with that inner person. Like, what would my inner best version of myself be doing? And you'll find very quickly that you'll normally know what they need to do, what they're doing, and you maybe compete with them. And that's what's helped me. I know there's a better version of myself, and I'm getting better every day.
Thank you for that, brother. Thank you so much, Edward, for doing this interview
Absolutely,
with me.
Basil.
Guys, find him on Instagram. If you want to drop your Instagram, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's private, so I don't know if you wanted it. It is private,
good,
so I didn't know if you
all
wanted
good.
to drop it. I was about to say it, but I was like, let me ask him.
No, it's fine. It's Edward_Hoyos, HOYOS_.
Okay, thank you guys. Make sure you go follow him. Thank him in his comments and everything for doing this interview with me. I'll see you guys next time. Network King with your host, Basil Artist. We're out.